I got a new topic of discussion, right? And it's about being more delusional. And I don't even want to say it because it kind of takes away from what I'm trying to say. But I was reading in the book Mastery by Robert Greene, man. He always opens my mind up, man, But since I was reading this book, he was just talking about the word vocation. Vocation meaning an inner calling or being called to do something. And I wanted to apply that term to why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. You know, it's not just merely me doing it because I'm just doing it. There's a calling, genuinely, right? There's a bit of uniqueness to my whole character that made me choose this. You know what I mean? And I just want to stress the delusion or the depth of looking at it as you being called to do something for your life purpose, right? Now, for me, it's not as plain and simple as, like, for me, I'm boxing and I have a strong vocation for it, but it's not as simple as this is my destiny to become the best boxer. But no, it's the process in the midst of doing the boxing, the lessons that come from it, that's forming who I am, or just remembering who the fuck I am. These experiences help me remember who the fuck I am. That makes me have the vocation for boxing, right? So it's not to be professional, but it's rather the connections that I build while I'm doing it with boxing, because it's amplified, right? I talk about this many times, and since I read this book, it's sort of just put it in a perspective for me. Like, it truly is something more than just you being able to connect dots for lessons outside of your life. Now, there's many people who mention this, and it's big. Like, talk about boxing and it being an experience greater than just the sport, right? It teaching them character. But I feel like my mind specifically, not to knock anybody else's point of view, I think we might come to the same conclusions and shit like that. But my mind specifically, in terms of its pattern recognition, it was meant for this type of shit. And especially since it's the amplification I was mentioning earlier. To describe what I mean by the amplification, I would say, I hate to use this reference, but mushrooms, magic mushrooms, right? So I had a trip, magic mushrooms, and the intensity of the shroom trip, when it gets your heart beating fast, you feel uneasy, and your mind starts to race and start second guessing everything, you know what I mean? It gives me that sort of feeling. But in the midst of that, I noticed that there was a lesson on being selective or attentive or intentional with your attention, regardless of the noise just trying to pull you away from it. And also the same thing that's uneasy, that unease is the lesson. It's the weight that built the muscle of who the fuck I am, right? I'm pacing in circles, don't mind me. But it builds the lesson of who the hell I am, right? So, for example, fear, that anxiousness. I don't know what else. The anxiousness when I'm thinking about boxing and this, that, and the third. But again, back to the vocation and it being a calling for me, not for the purpose of being a professional boxer, but exactly those lessons and those twists and turns on this path that show me that, nigga, I have to do this, nigga. Anything that tries to divert my attention away from something, it shows me that I have to face and go face this shit. Just, take it as it is. You know what I mean? It shows me how to deal with the truth, how to deal with reality, because truth is hard, it's harsh, The world is harshly competitive, and we gotta build myself in order to mold myself inside of this world it won't allow me to be a weakling out here. You know what I mean? So that's that calling. That's that vocation. It's building me into something for the purpose of maybe inspiring others. You dig? I already have, you know? I already have, and I haven't felt that I've gotten anywhere with this boxing shit in terms of skills. But I have in terms of mental strength, the discipline to continue going, understanding the tough times of doubts, right? I've never felt, for example, the urge of this isn't for me more than anything in my life. And this shows me that that's just merely a test, merely a challenge, nigga, the calling has called for me, nigga, the call that is gave to me, you know? Another reference point from the magic mushroom trip was the distractions that, I'm gonna just give you a quick little story. Like, I was watching TV, and honestly, this wasn't even on shrooms. I had a bad shroom trip, and it had some lingering effects afterwards, right? So I think I tapped a joint, and when I tapped the joint after that bad shroom trip, it was low-key, weed just never hit the same. You know, it always felt a bit shroom-like. You know, now it's whatever, but it was always a bit shroom-like. My heart starts pounding, leaving off a little joint. And basically, I was watching TV, and there was just a whole bunch of notions that were inside of my head, taking me away from what plainly is. And essentially what I took from that experience was the lesson being, try your hardest not to listen to those things, or try your hardest to pay attention and center in on just reality itself. And it's going to be hard because everything around you is going to try to take you away from that shit. That intensity, right? That same feeling that's saying that this isn't for me. That same feeling that wants you to succumb. And it's twists and turns to this shit, bro. It's ups and downs. It's a loophole, right? But there's always a way out of it. And then many times as you go around, nigga, you come around to the same spot, but just to know it a bit more thoroughly. Meaning, like, okay, nigga, let's say, all right, use your jab. Okay, now I could use my jab up and down, or I know how to use my jab for distance. I know how to use my jab for plainly intimidation purposes only. You feel me? Setting my jab up for anything else. You know, it's just, you learn that same move just to understand its importance a bit greater, right? And how it applies to you. But back to the uniqueness and calling for this boxing shit, okay? So for me, at least, this boxing shit, again, like I said, no professional boxing goals or none of that shit. It was simply for the mere strive for progression and being skilled. I don't care about anything else other than being skilled. And everything that's taken away from my journey on to becoming skilled is basically the vocation that's telling me to keep going. So maybe it's fear, maybe a bad time in the gym in which that shows me that I don't want to, maybe this shit isn't for, nigga, that's an experience in which you could reference later on, being like, okay, I survived a tough time and I'm still here, so what the fuck, I'm him. Or just building that mental fortitude, because again, bro, in the book Mastery, they was talking about how competitive this motherfucking world is, in which it is, especially now. You know, everything is advancing. Who are you without it, you know? It's a cheat code. You can actually look at this as an advantage point for yourself. You know, other people being so distracted, people not being able to hear that calling or even make a connection, not even understanding their uniqueness, you know? I feel that this is it, right? So what I'm really trying to stress again here is not looking at whatever you're doing as something slight. Look at it as a calling. This is deeper than what it is. This is a path that you chose, which is gonna have not a linear fucking path, but it's gonna be ups and downs, sides to fucking sides, but it's meant for you to walk. Because if you did anything else, it's other than you, right? It's not your voice. It's probably inspired by other people. It's probably inspired by the notion of, since this shit is so not linear, difficult, may so be, and whatever the case may be, and just maybe the thought that life should be just so easy going. That shit could take you out your pivot. Just know, I forgot what I was gonna say and lead up to, but long story short, bruh, look at this path as something greater outside of yourself, nigga, because this is just meant to be. I have to go through these experiences, right? I have to, in order to build who I was supposed to become in the first place. All of this is just a building of who I am, right? So that's how I feel what this path is showing me. The building of who I am, who I could be, maximizing my skill sets, my uniqueness, such as my pattern recognition, my ability to sit from a distance and not allow my emotions to get in tune with it, right? It's a skill in that, man. I'm not gonna say emotions because, nigga, this is the desire. This is desire. This is emotion that I'm feeling that makes me want to continue and look at it this certain type of way. It's just an emotion, but more so being blind to the connections that I could make with this box and shit. You know what I mean? But yeah.